start.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to give it a couple minutes while people get in from the waiting room. All right, we'll give it just one more second or so. So for folks that are joining, let's go ahead and jump in the chat. Would love to know who is here. If folks want to drop where they're zooming in from, that would be great. I myself am in NYC, so yeah, would love to know where everyone's coming in from. You want to drop that in the chat? I think we're going to have quite all the states covered, which is really wonderful. Look at that, Cleveland, Chicago, awesome. This is wonderful. Portland, Oregon, is where I went to law school. Very cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining. We will go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on an update on the Farm Bill and the Save Our Bacon Act fight. We're going to cover some new information, some information we've covered before, but I also just want to thank everyone for joining. I know that there's a World Cup game on right now, and for you to be taking the time to be here to learn how you can help animals is really fantastic. I'm going to first let Leah and Dan introduce themselves, two of my favorite people in the movement, leaders, people that I've been looking up to for a very long time in my own professional career. So Leah, I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to introduce yourself, and then Dan, love to hear from you as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited you're here tonight. I'm Leah Garcés. I am an author, a TEDx talker. I think that's the way you put that professionally and seriously, and an animal advocate. And I've been working on the Save Our Bacon Act with everyone in the movement, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight.
My name is Dan Shannon. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Humane League, one of the world's largest farmed animal protection organizations. And I've been in and out of the movement in various roles for almost 30 years, going back to my time as a student activist back in the 90s, but who's counting?
Yeah, you don't need to age yourself there. And I love that TEDx talker, Leah. That's going to be officially your title.
That's my official title. Yes, indeed.
Awesome. Well, my name is Matt. I'm the Executive Director of Compassion World Farming US. I actually sit in the seat that Leah created. So Leah, thank you for the job. I appreciate it. And thank you for leaving it so I can assume it. But it's great to have both of you here tonight. You all are obviously experts on this issue. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Leah, what is the Save Our Bacon Act? What is the Farm Bill? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, to do that, I'm going to take you a little back in time to around 2018 when California passed Prop 12. And this is where the most comprehensive law was ever passed in the United States or anywhere really at the time protecting farmed animals. And it banned the sale it's banned cages and crates for farmed animals and the sale of products from there. And it was fantastic, and we celebrated it. And there were other states that passed similar things. And the pork industry got pissed. They were not happy. And they attempted through the courts to override it. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And even the Supreme Court said it stands. This is a law that was passed by voters. It stands. The pork industry were not happy with that. So they've reached into another part of our government, to the Congress, and they are attempting to override state rights to protect farmed animals and farmers to compete fairly in the market through the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill is passed every 5 years, although this one is about 3 years late because we have a fairly dysfunctional government at this stage. And what it has is tons and tons and tons of things, everything about food safety and all the rules and all the subsidies. And slipped in there is something called the Save Our Bacon Act. And that little line in there, that little phrase in there is trying to override Prop 12, trying to override state rights to protect farmed animals. And Matt's going to tell you a little bit more later about where we're at on that. But at this stage, we are still dealing with it. It still could happen, and we need to keep fighting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And with this particular issue, it's not just Prop 12. In fact, there are almost a dozen states that have banned the cruel confinement for farm animals, making it animal cruelty. I mean, it's insane to think about that. Nearly a dozen states in our country have said that this is animal cruelty and you could be prosecuted for it, while it's still standard practice in other states. And you're right, the industry is trying to nullify all the hard work that we've done. Now, Dan, who's behind this? Like, who's the evil person behind the curtain that is trying to harm animals?
Yeah, so as Leah said, at a high level, it's basically the pork industry and their industry group, the National Pork Producers Council, right? So that's the primary vehicle through which the pork industry is trying to flex their muscles, right? Their kind of their money, right? Their lawyers, their lobbyists to kind of get out there and do everything that Leah said, try to overturn these state laws and the will of the voter. NPPC represents, right, like big agribusiness corporations, right? So companies like Smithfield, a multi-billion-dollar, multinational, huge corporate conglomerate that profits massively from cruelty to animals and from factory farming and other companies like Smithfield. So make no mistake, right, if this attempt, right, to undermine Prop 12 and Massachusetts Question 3 and the other state laws that you mentioned, this is Congress trying to do, or certain members of Congress, trying to do a huge favor, right, for their corporate interests, right? The folks who give their money and support their campaigns. So this is, is one way to look at it, is it's corruption, plain and simple. But it's also, as Leah said, this is kind of how our dysfunctional government works at this point in time. So it's it's an attempt at a massive corporate giveaway at the expense of animals and the expense of the voters. It's being primarily backed by at least, by a smaller number of representatives in Congress and in the House and in the Senate who represent ag-heavy states with a lot of pork production, where this is a kind of big issue for their corporate constituents in those states. And what we need to do as activists is show them what this means to their actual constituents, the people, the voters, everybody on this call who cares about animals, also cares about good government, right, and wants to see not just animals treated humanely, but government actually doing the will of the people and what people actually voted for and said that they wanted, and not what big companies want.
It's absolutely insane. You talk about this idea of like being a corporate handout to this very niche industry. When you look at all the different industries that exist in our country, this handout. I mean, Smithfield. The other day, I learned that Smithfield takes up about 25 to 30% of all pork production in the United States. I mean, no one company should have that much power, and let alone then be getting handouts. And so the question is, if those companies and the MPPC and those who align with cruelty to animals are getting a handout from the government, if this passes, who's harmed? And Leah, I'm going to start with you. Who's harmed in this equation? What is the negative impact that this will have on everyone?
Yeah, it's massive, the harm. I mean, for me and for many of the people on this call, the biggest harm is to the animals. They are in the most nightmarish circumstances day in and day out. And we have fought tooth and nail. We have fought so hard for such minimal freedoms, like small things. This law is just asking them to be able to turn around, like freedom to move. That's it. We're not saying, all animals, I wish, were in a farm sanctuary. We're just saying they have to be able to turn around. And we have won that right for them, or that improvement, that progress, that lessened suffering, however you want to phrase it. And they don't even want that. SOB is about taking away animals' rights to even move, and any future rights for us to give them more freedom, to give them more space, to get them out of all cages, all crates, all kinds of intensive animal agriculture. And so at the end of the day, the beings that suffer so gravely without a voice, without an ability to protect themselves, are the animals. I will also say, and this might surprise a lot of people, farmers are severely affected by this. Most farmers really don't want to be doing it this way. And it's the corporations, the big ag, the big meat, like Smithfield, like Matt just talked about, that are winning from this. There have been a ton of farmers that are saying, yeah, we're moving away from crates. We don't want to use crates. And they've already invested in moving in crates. And then big pork is coming in and saying, actually, we're going to override your investment. And now you're going to lose. You're going to lose from that investment. You're going to be out. So it is really also about protecting farmers who are trying. They're really trying to do better, and allowing them to compete fairly. If we don't defeat the Save Our Bacon Act, it just overrides farmers' ability to make improvements, to have the freedom to do better for animals. And I will say finally, as voters, we lose. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Dan, you can talk about that because, the people and animals are core, but it goes beyond that for sure.
Yeah, I agree, Lee. I agree, first of all, with what you said. The primary losers are the animals for all the reasons you mentioned. But yeah, we should talk about the fact that, voters, like voters in California and in Massachusetts and other states who voted in most cases overwhelmingly, right, to pass these laws,
Yeah.
their rights are being stripped from them. Right, and I'm not going to get into issues other than animal issues on this call, but I want you all to think about other things that you care about, other political issues, other legislation that you'd like to see, wouldn't like to see, and what a dangerous precedent it sets, right, for the federal government, for Congress to be able to look at an individual state and say, well, your voters passed this law fair and square, but we don't like it, so we're going to overturn it. It's an incredibly dangerous precedent to set, not just for animals, but for all the other issues that we all care about, whatever they happen to be. So I think that's one thing we need to keep front and center in our thinking here. The second thing, and Leah, you alluded to this, is the ability for state governments to govern themselves and their own industrial practices, right? There's a reason why agricultural policy tends to sort of exist at the state level because things are different in California than they are in Massachusetts or they are in New York. The industries are different, the climate is different, blah, 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 right? So it's very important that states have the ability to pass local legislation that both
Yeah.
reflects the will of the people of that state and also the realities on the ground, right? As Lee was saying about like what do actual farmers want? Like not big corporate CEOs, but what do actual human farmers want here? So I think those are two other things that are at play: the right of the voters to sort of pass laws and vote for things and expect them to stick, and the rights of states to regulate themselves and their own industries, specifically agriculture.
I mean, it's insane to me that when you think about what Congress is supposed to do, these are our elected officials that are supposed to do the will of the people, right? You're talking about California's Prop 12 passed by over 60%, Massachusetts Question 3 passed by over 70%. When you look at the polls that recently have come out, they have said that in nearly every state across the country, nationwide polls, that voters have said overwhelmingly, nearly 80%, that they would support a similar law to Prop 12 in Question 3. I mean, I still can't believe that we're debating this, and I feel compelled to do this, and please for it's not for shock value, but I think it's important is that this is what this entire fight is about. It is her and the millions like her that the pork industry is going to our government to say we do not want her to turn around, and all of us are fighting our asses off to at least give her the space to turn around. This is what the entire fight is about. This is the work that we're doing, and this is why it's so important because we're talking about millions and millions and millions of animals. And we have some updates. Like, I mean, the great thing is like, I mean, Leah, I mean, there's been two pretty big things that have happened recently when you look at lawmakers that were in support or not declaring their support, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah. So one thing it just prompted me was somebody just said something about this being bipartisan, and I think that is absolutely correct. And this is not like somebody the other day, this farmer said to me, I don't care which wing of the bird you're on. And I was like, that's such a great phrase. Like, it doesn't matter which wing of the bird you're on. Like, treating animals with dignity is something we can all get behind. It has nothing to do with your political leanings. And we're finding that more and more with some of the key people who have decided to change their position. And Matt, I am just blanking on the name
Senator
right now.
Marshall.
Okay, Senator Marshall. That's why I was like hesitating. But Senator Marshall, who was one of the original like people who crafted the bill, who crafted the act, who crafted the idea, just reversed his position publicly, like in, it was fantastic. And we've had a lot of effort, honestly, is because of people putting pressure on these folks. It's not happening on its own. They're not like waking up with one morning and being like, aha, I've had this epiphany and I'm going to do the right thing. No, it's because the voters, the consumers, are calling them relentlessly. They're showing up in some cases and protesting outside of their houses or their offices, and they're ringing them, they're tagging them in tweets, they're tagging them in Instagram, and they're hearing us. They do not like it. They do not like, and we've suddenly become a power block. We become a block. And I think, Matt, we were saying this earlier, like we've gone from this being a defense to an offense situation. This has become an issue that no senator, by the end of this, I hope, will want to be seen on the wrong side of, or it will literally impact their ability to be voted into position again.
I mean, you're exactly right. And Dan, I mean, you live in New York with me. THL and Compassion World Farming was planning on doing some work with a certain lawmaker that is our senator. And the great news is just a couple weeks ago, what did he do?
Yeah, so Senator Chuck Schumer, who's obviously an incredibly influential voice on the Democratic side of the Senate, issued a public statement. After we politely let him know that we might be potentially protesting in front of his, or rallying, I should say, in front of his Senate office here in New York. Issued a public statement saying that he opposes the inclusion of the Save Our Bacon language in the bill, and I think he said, correct me on this if I'm wrong, Matt, but I think he said he would not vote for a bill that included that language.
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, you go from one of the bill sponsors who has pulled his name off of his own bill and saying that I don't want to do this. And then you have the minority leader, Schumer, who I think was on our side from the beginning, but was refusing to take a public position. And I will tell you, getting a leader in a party to take a public stance before it's even put before them on the floor is very, very difficult. And this is the perfect example of something of where for anyone who questions whether phone calls and emails and social media has an impact, these are two very solid examples of it. I was on a webinar yesterday where we're doing Lobby 101 training and teaching people how to meet with their senators, and been working with your team, Dan, over at THL. And Hannah, who's an incredible employee of yours that works on policy, doing a phenomenal job on this, she was talking about that this is like, it is defense, but it's turning into something else. And so, Dan, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know one of the things that THL is doing is they're really focusing on building a movement to help farm animals. And so how are we turning this from defense into offense?
Yeah, so to your point, Matt, I think movements and I think politics and just social change generally, a lot of it comes down to momentum, right? I mean, like I'm a sports guy, like a lot of sports comes down to like just who's got the momentum and who doesn't, and what direction are things moving in. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, right? We have a lot of fight left to go on this farm bill. The outcome is not guaranteed. We have phone calls to make, hard work to do. We'll get into all that. But, right, I think we are demonstrating right now as we speak with, Senator Marshall backing out, Senator Schumer issuing the public statement that we talked about, that we are a force, we, the animal protection movement broadly, and all the organizations involved with it, and all the individuals and activists involved with it, are a force to be reckoned with, right? That these Senate offices are listening to, are taking seriously, are afraid of. I hate to put it that way, but that's basically what it comes down to, right? Is that people need to fear, right? Sort of being on the wrong side of us and want to be on the right side with us. And so I think whatever happens with the Farm Bill, I am cautiously optimistic, but we have a lot of hard work ahead of us. We can leverage that momentum and keep it going after this Farm Bill fight is over, right? That can look like state level legislation, like the octopus farming ban, like here in New York State, right? Things like the foie gras ban that passed in New York City, and similar bans are underway in other parts of the country, right? There's a lot of ways that people can channel their passion for animals and their interest in public policy for animals beyond just the Farm Bill. So I think obviously game number one is we got to win the Farm Bill fight. But I'm very excited about how well our movement has shown up, how much we've been able to influence these very important decision makers. And we got to think about how we keep our foot on that gas pedal after this fight is over, so that we can go from playing defense, which we're playing right now, to play offense for animals and actually get better policies at the state, local, and eventually federal level. And we're going to do that the same way that we're going to win this fight, which is through people making phone calls, people sending emails, people volunteering, people taking actions, right, flexing their political muscle. Because I'll tell you, and Matt and Leah, you've both, I'm sure, heard the same thing, but when I was in DC meeting with Senate offices, almost every single person that I've talked to, every single Senate staffer, including some quite senior ones, unprompted, without me bringing it up, said, we've got more phone calls than this we've gotten anything in a long time. Like, this is really breaking through to these offices. It has become crystal clear that people care about this. People care about farmed animals. They want to see them treated humanely. And these members of Congress, and importantly their staff, are not going to forget that. And so we get to give them other opportunities to act on that in the future.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm feeling.
I think.
Go ahead, Leah.
No, I was going to say, I feel like we've built something really palpable. Like I can taste it, I can feel it. For the first time, I've been doing this work for about 25 years. I feel like it's the first time in the United States we've had the opportunity at the federal level to chase them down, to get real progress made. And I don't know about you all, but I don't want to let that go. I don't want to reach this kind of peak and then when it's over and hopefully we defeat, we just all go back to our day job. Like I'm ready to this, we've built up to here. Now let's keep building and keep growing. And I know we're not done though yet, Matt, right? Like we're not done. So can you like tell us where we're at? Because a lot of people came tonight. They're seeing a lot on social media. They're wondering, isn't it over yet? Like, didn't we do it? And it's confusing and it's hard because government activity is intentionally a minefield. You're not, it's like an escape room that you never get out of somehow. Can you tell us, can you create
Yes.
clarity for us, please?
If I could do my best to try to clarify the system that is our federal government, it is a process that is designed purposefully to make it so people don't want to be involved. They want people to be frustrated. They want people to not be involved because when you pull back the veil, when you look behind the curtain and see how our politics and how the laws that affect our lives, the lives of animals, the lives of our friends and family and our environment and our food system, it's pretty corrupt. It's pretty gross. On what you were talking about, Dan, before I go through where we're at in this process, I just want to note that I know we have a lot of work to do. I am cautiously optimistic, but we all have to work our asses off to win this battle. I agree that I've never seen anything like this on the national level. I've only seen it on state ballot measures, which unfortunately, when we win, it dissipates. And this is our opportunity on a national level to do this. But I will say, I'm predicting that 10 years from now, if you were to talk to someone at the NPPC, they would say, we fucking regret pushing the Save Our Bacon Act because not only did we lose, not only did we look weak, and then we have actively given the animal protection movement a reason to rally behind ending gestation crates. And that is my hope for all of this, and I'm starting to feel it just like you are. So let's get into a little bit of the details to get everyone up to speed with where we're at in the process and what the timeline looks like. So I'm going to share my screen, and here we go. So I put this little flow chart together. Everyone can see it. Leah, Dan, give me some thumbs up. Cool. All right. So the process in the House and the process in the Senate look relatively similar. So unfortunately, in the House, the draft committee or the House Agricultural Committee released a draft that included Save Our Bacon Act. We worked day and night and worked really hard to get it stripped on committee markup and vote. And unfortunately, we lost. We came very close. The bill then went to the floor and we tried to get an amendment to get the bill removed or to get that language removed. And unfortunately, we lost. The bill eventually went to the House floor and passed by a narrow margin. But I will tell you, the fact that we were even close in the House, the fact that we had Republicans from Florida and from multiple states fighting tooth and nail to pull this language out is nothing less than a miracle. And I will say we showed just how formidable we are as a movement. Now, the fight is not over because although we lost in the House, we now have the Senate. It's the same process, just different players. So where are we at right now? Well, first and foremost, we should all be very proud of the fact that the Senate version has been released of the Farm Bill with no Save Our Bacon. That is a tremendous feat, given the fact that it is a Republican-controlled Senate, and the Republicans on the Ag Committee, as you can imagine, are not exactly the most favorable towards our issues. So we have a draft bill in the Senate. It does not have Save Our Bacon Act language in it, which is fantastic because it is harder for them to put it in than for us to take it out. So we're in a good place right now. The Senate markup is likely going to happen the week of July 20th. That's what we're hearing. Now, with everything going on in the Senate, I mean, is Mitch McConnell alive? Is Mitch McConnell dead? Who knows what's going on? Likely, we're going to see a markup and vote out of committee in the end of July. Our goal right now is to get so much opposition to this and so many of you calling and emailing and taking action to make it unfeasible for them to include the language as an amendment during that markup process. After that process, the bill will then go to the floor for debate and further amendments like it did in the House. And it's going to be our job again to keep an amendment out of the bill so that Save Our Bacon is not inserted in the Senate. Hopefully, we will be victorious in committee. We will be victorious on the floor. Now, then there's going to be a floor vote. Now, if it includes Save Our Bacon, we need to then make sure the Farm Bill doesn't pass. If there isn't, we still probably don't want the farm bill to pass, because what we don't want to have happen is then we go to conference committee. This is where the House and the Senate come together. They take the House bill and the Senate bill, and a small group of lawmakers, senators and representatives, they go into a back room and they negotiate a deal in conference committee. Those then go to the floor for final passage, and then it would be signed by the president. So the reason we went through this is I want all of you to know is that this fight is not going to be over, frankly, until December 31st of 2026. Either a farm bill passes without Save Our Bacon and we can declare victory, or this fight is going to continue until the farm bill is no longer a threat for us this year. So there's a lot of steps. There's a lot of opportunities to win. There's a lot of work that we need to do. And I think that that sets us up in a perfect place to talk about now, what do we need all of you, the participants on this call, to do today, tomorrow, next week, the week after that, the week after that, and the week after that. This is a marathon, so prepare yourself, hydrate. This is the things that we need to work on. So, Alex, if you put up on the screen the slides, we're going to go through how all of you can get involved to help save the mother pigs and help all the farm animals. All right. If you want to put it in presentation mode so it's big enough for everyone to see, these are the things that we need you to do. We need you to call. We need you to email. We need you to join our working group. We need you to mobilize in your community. We need you to amplify social media, and we need you to expand into your network and amplify. So we're going to go through each one together. And if you want to put any questions in the chat, we're going to answer them after this. So next slide, please, Alex. We're going to go to call your two senators. We've made this easier for you. Before, we made you call the switchboard, and then we had a little prompt for you and everything. And our good friends at the Humane League have made this really, really simple for all of you. Now, before anyone asks, yes, all of these slides are going to be available to you after this call. And so you'll be able to scan them on your computer. So you can do it now, but also this is going to be sent to all of you to take action. So what you're going to do is you're going to scan that QR code. And it's going to be real easy because it's going to take you to a form where you fill out this information. This will identify who your senators are. You push call me, you'll get a phone call. I did it earlier today just to test it out, and it will automatically put you in contact with your senators. Easy peasy. Dan, I know you've called your senator. Tell the folks how easy this is, how much time it's going to take, who they're going to talk to, and what do you got to say?
Takes literally 30 seconds. Doesn't need to take more than that. You don't need to say a lot. It's not going to be a long phone call. You're busy, they're busy, everybody's busy, right? You're going to say, my name is Dan Shannon. I'm your constituent. I live in Manhattan. That's what I say. You don't need to give your whole address or anything, but just enough to show them that you're a constituent. And I'm calling to ask, Senator Schumer, in my case, right, not to vote for any farm bill that has a Save Our Bacon Act language in it. Sometimes I ask the person that I'm talking to, are you following that issue? Do you know what that is? Just to kind of make sure that they're tracking. 100% of the time they tell me absolutely. They're paying attention to this stuff. They know what's going on. But those are the main thing. Do not vote for any farm bill that has Save Our Bacon language in it. And then that's it. And they'll say, thank you, I wrote it down, and they're going to pass that message up to up the food chain, as it were. That's why it's so important, because they track and log these calls. They pay attention to the volume that they're getting, right? People who are in positions of decision-making authority are getting reports every day. This is how many people called. This is what they called about. So it really does matter, even if the person that you're talking to, right, is a kind of low-level employee in the office. That information is trickling all the way up. But it's super easy, takes 30 seconds. You don't need to have a ton of talking points. This is my name. This is what I'm asking you to do. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Easy peasy. Now, here's the question. Should people keep calling? You know how I feel about this, but I'd love to get your opinion. Should people call more than once? And if they've called, should they call again?
In my opinion, I think if the person you're calling doesn't have a public position, right, and sort of hasn't done the thing that we're asking for yet, you should call again and just say, hey, I called previously and I haven't seen you made a statement, so I'm just checking in, right? I wouldn't recommend calling people who are our allies over and over and over again necessarily, because we want to keep them our allies. But yeah, and that, in most cases, it's worth calling multiple times.
That's exactly right. And we still need several senators to come out. And again, you have two. So there's 2 phone calls you're going to make. And as Dan pointed out, you don't need to be an expert. They're not going to cross-examine you. They're not going to ask you questions. I mean, this is really your opportunity to essentially just tell them how you feel as a constituent. And as Dan said, this counts so much. They view every phone call as you representing, a couple thousand of their constituents, every email, everything you do, you are representing that state even more than just yourself. Next slide, because after the phone calls, you also need to send an email. So we made it easy for you as well. So you're going to be sending 2 emails, but we made this really easy where all you got to do is scan the QR code. It'll take you to a form. And again, the reason we need this information is so we can identify who your senators are. And then we will pre-populate and send an email to them on your behalf. So first and foremost, tomorrow, all of you on this call, what we need you to do is make 2 phone calls and send 2 emails. That is the beginning of your advocacy on this. And as Dan pointed out, we're going to need you to call multiple times because this fight is going to continue. It's going to be in the committee, it's going to be on the floor, it's going to be in conference, and then it's going to be, again, another vote. And we need to make sure that today they know you're opposed and tomorrow that you're opposed. So next slide. All right. This is new. So if you've been on one of our calls before, we haven't talked about this, but I'm really, really excited about this. I will say the Humane League is phenomenal at grassroots organizing, and they're doing tremendous work on this. And we're going to be working together on this particular thing, which is we are creating state level Save Our Bacon Act working groups. So the power that we have is in our numbers. And so for every single one of you, if there's 5 of you in Michigan working together, just imagine how much power we can have. So what we need folks to do, and this is something, please do this now before you forget. This is one of the most important things you'll do outside of a phone call and email. Scan this QR code and just let us know where you live. Raise your hand, say that you want to be involved with your fellow people in your state, and we will put a group together and you will work on things like submitting letters to the editors, attending your senator's town hall. We'll prep you for that, how to ask a question about this, how you can table and leaflet at events, how you can do a virtual meeting with your senator staff. I will join you, Dan will join you, Leah will join you, our staff will join you, so you are not alone, so that you can talk directly to your senator's office and tell them that you oppose this. And of course, working on community and social media outreach. We want to train all of you up, because this is not our last fight. Because I can promise you, as Dan said, this may be defense today, but guess what? We're going to turn this into offense tomorrow. So please sign up. You'll be being contacted by Max and members of THL, Dan's team, that's going to reach out to you, and we'll start putting these state groups together so we can start kicking ass on the state level. Next slide. All right, Leah, I'm going to turn it over to you on this one.
Oh, this is my favorite part. Okay. Right here, folks, is our leaflets, which you too can get. You can print them out at your computer, at your local FedEx. That's what I did. I printed out these at the local FedEx. They are leaflets, and you can leaflet at anywhere where people might care about pigs and animals, and that's everywhere. But I will tell you, I have found a lot of success at farmers markets. It's summer, people are out. When you go to a farmers market, you're going to have people who are already thinking about higher quality food and engaging with their food and farming system. So I found it a really valuable place to go. I have 2 farmers markets that I attend. There's some light rules about leafleting. I actually did a little video on the rules around leafleting if you look on my social media. And it's basically, you need to stay on a public sidewalk. That's it. It is your right in the Constitution. It's freedom of speech. You can use a leaflet. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You can distribute them. My other tips for leafleting are things like approach someone in a way that makes you approachable. Smile, be friendly, be kind. Don't shove a leaflet at a mom carrying 20 shopping bags and a baby and pushing a stroller. Move on to a different person. And you never know, she might turn around when she's not having her hands full and take the leaflet because you didn't bug her. So I usually say something, I have a sentence where I'm ready, like, hey, do you want to help out mother pigs? And if they look like sure, then you give them a little more. Say they're voting on this in the Farm Bill and it's urgent. And then if they want more and more and more, you go to as far as you can with them. And sometimes people will say, can I have extra leaflets? How can I get more involved? And I give them a QR code like we've got here. Leafleting is fun. It's a way to engage with people. I love leafleting. I'm a people person, that's for sure. But I love going out, and it gives me so much optimism because it turns out many more people than you would expect want this to happen. They care. And I'm always surprised. I always realize my own biases about who would care and who wouldn't. And I find there's all these other people that are thinking and eating and behaving like I am, and I didn't know them, and they're my own community. So it's a great way to connect. It's a actually really effective way to get people to make these phone calls. And I have lots of tips if anybody wants to ever do it in Georgia with me. I am here in Atlanta, and we can go to a farmer's market together.
Yeah, it's the worst thing you're going to get is someone just saying, I'm all set. Actually, that's a Boston thing. I'm all set. But the worst thing that's going to happen is someone's just going to say no. But what you will find, I mean, when you think about just how dangerous this is, what I ask people is, have you heard of the Save Our Bacon Act? And that alone gets people like, wait, what? What did this person just say? And it gives you the perfect in to talk about it. And again, there are so many reasons to oppose this. Do you care about animals? Do you care about family farmers? Do you care about public health? Do you care about democracy? Do you care about states' rights? Like, pick your reason. And I will tell
Yeah.
you, you will have some phenomenal conversations. You will, I mean, I was just in Michigan doing this at a food festival. We handed out probably over 1,200 leaflets. I had hundreds of conversations with people to the point where I couldn't even talk anymore. And a number of those people are now volunteers. Every single one of us, including myself, there was a leaflet or something that got us into this movement, whether it was a video, a leaflet, whatever it is. One of the things that's great about this is you may be not only pushing in phone calls to help kill the Save Our Bacon Act, you might be finding the next Dan Shannon or Leah Garcés or yourself. And so this is your opportunity to really get into your community and really help animals. Dan, I don't know if you have anything to say. I think you've done some grassroots stuff in your life, right?
Yeah, quite a bit. But to your point, Matt was only being a little. He wasn't being facetious. My journey in animal activism started literally because somebody put a leaflet in my hand outside of a punk rock show I was at when I was 16 years old, and it changed the whole course of my life. I don't know that I would have been here otherwise. So it like no joke, right? There's the battle we're fighting now, and then there's this kind of meta battle for the movement and for farm animals and just the future of agriculture in this country. And your biggest win could just be a person whose hand you put a leaflet in that you never know about.
Exactly right. Leah, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, I did. I'm seeing the chat just a little bit, and I know we're going to address some of the questions. But someone was asking if there is a website or a list of where they could find out if senators have already made a public statement. And yes, there is. And Alex is going to post that in the chat. But you can look up there to see if your senator has made a public statement against SOB or not. I will tell you, most of them haven't, which is not good. But you can find out there, so you can be sure. And you can say, I looked you up. You did not make the statement, and you can chase them down until they do.
That's exactly right. And if they have made a public statement, uh, silence is neutrality is supporting the opposition, right? Like if you have not yet, you may tell us behind closed doors that you're opposed to this, but if you're truly opposed to this, you should be telling that to the public. And so really, we want every single senator that is opposed to this to make a public statement. If they have, you need to thank them. And if they haven't, you need to ask them politely. Even if they tell you, oh, we're opposed to that, where's your public statement? Schumer's done it. For God's sakes, one of the old bill sponsors has now publicly come out against this. So there is no argument that no one has cover to do this, and that's what we're really asking folks to do. Alex, next slide. So phone calls, emails, getting involved on the state level with your community, handing out leaflets. These are all things that it's not an either or. We need you all to do all of these things because this is the most important fight for farm animals, I think, in my lifetime. And this is where we need you to take even more action. So, Leah, I'm going to turn it over to you. You've turned into the
Yes.
social media queen. How can folks get involved? So, yeah, I have an Instagram profile. I have 200 followers, or I have an X account, and I have 4 people that follow me. How can someone make an impact here?
Okay, first of all, that's not true. Matt has like 27,000 people following him on Instagram. So he is the social media rock star. And if you want to find out what's going on, anything to do with legislation at the city, state, or federal level, Matt is your man. And you can see very quickly and live what is happening. He will have it out that day if he can. We are all writing about this. We are all out there on social media. So you might be wondering, like, why the heck am I seeing so much SOB right now? Why am I seeing all these influencers talking about this? And the algorithm is picking up that this is a trend. And so the more that we help it become a trend, the more it gets featured in front of everyone. It gets pushed out. So not to get into the weeds about social media chess game, the algorithm, but there are several ways that you can help do that. You can, from behind the scenes, be pushing it into the algorithm. So here are a couple ways. Liking it is great, but it's not enough. You need to view it for more than 10 seconds. So if you see something, stay on the reel, count to 10. Because if something goes,
If you see Leah with a coffee cup or you see the silica hat,
just,
just
yeah,
10 seconds.
just 10 seconds, just count to yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not, 10. Because what happens is if the algorithm, the whole game is that it's trying to keep you on the platform as long as possible. So if you can stay, if it sees that it's keeping people on for 5 seconds or more, it's like, ooh, ding, 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 push it out, push it out. It's going to keep people on the platform longer. The other thing, two other things. One is reposting it onto your stories. That gets counted as another like click, check, star. And the other is you're sharing it with someone. So those are, and the final one is that you comment, and not an emoji, not like, heart, 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 fire, 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 hands, high five. It needs to be 2 sentences, 1 sentence, a substantial statement. So those are 4 ways that you can kind of help push up a post so that it gets read by the algorithm as this is keeping people on the platform longer, and therefore we should pass it out. And so what the algorithm then does is it starts shooting it out to non-followers, and that becomes like a spiral, a kind of, what is that thing called? What is that called? Ring. What is wrong with me? When you throw a pebble in and the ring happens, what is that called? Somebody help me out. Ripple, for God's
Ripples.
sake.
I
Sorry.
was going to wait for as long as it possibly
Just
took.
let me just suffer. Thanks a lot, Matt. Yeah, the ripple effect will happen. So just to repeat, 4 ways. So you see SOB content, you could spend like 10 minutes. You could even search in your Instagram or any of the platforms for SOB content and then go through it and do like for 5 reels, repost it, send it to a friend, make a comment, and stick on it for 10 seconds. That will really help. And then it keeps getting more and more and more. And that's how a trend happens. That's how you see an issue become a trendy issue and everybody's talking about it. And that's what we're trying to do here, because for better or for worse, more than 50% of people are getting their news, getting their information directly from influencers, not from news channels, but from influencers. And especially the younger they are, the more that is. So we may not like it. It may not be how we wish the world was, but it is how culture is shifting, how information is shared. And so we got to play the game, and these are some ways that we can manipulate it and make it better so that animals benefit.
I mean, that's exactly right. If even half of you saw Leah's video on the next Save Our Bacon Act thing, call to action, whatever it is, and you did these things, it is likely that tens of thousands of more people will see it, and likely tens of thousands of people who have never heard about this. This is the way that we build truly a movement against this and show that animals is not this niche thing, that it truly is in the majority. I know some of you probably feel like I do when it comes to social media, but this is so important. And get outside your comfort zone and just know that this is in the best interest of animals. So we'll go to the last slide, and Dan, I'm going to hand it over to you because there are very few people in our movement that has done more work to build community and to get more people engaged. So can you talk to this? How does someone multiply their impact? So you do all the things that we told you to individually do. What is the next thing?
Yeah, so you might not be Matt Dominguez, and you might not have 27,000, Instagram followers. You might not be Leah, but you are an influencer in your community, right? You have your own followers, whoever they are. You have your friends, you have your family, you have loved ones, people in your neighborhood who you know, who trust you as a human, right? So no matter how many followers the rest of us may or may not have, I don't have that many. We don't have that for your people, right? So for people in your social network, right? Like online and offline, you are the best possible messenger from them to hear from on this. If they get an email from Compassion or for the Humane League, or they see one of Leo's videos, that's going to not matter anything close to hearing directly from you. because they know you, they trust you, right? And then you have that relationship with them. So one of the I think the most impactful I mean the most impactful thing you can do is call your senator. Beyond that, I think the most impactful thing you can do is share this call to action, whether it's like reposting one of the action sites or just sharing it in your own language, but elevating this issue to people that you care about in your community who care about you. Because if they're hearing it from directly from you, there is no other way that any of us in the movement that can reach them that will be as powerful as you reaching them directly. Like my example of this is I always call my mom. Every time there's an issue, she will make every phone call I tell her. She harasses her senators, right? Because yeah, she's my mom. She's gonna do like so. Who are those people for you, right? Who are your best friend, your sister, whatever, who are gonna kind of follow your lead on this? So you know your network better than anybody else, but do what you can, how you can, to spread the word with your network, whether it's online, whether it's offline, whether it's in person, because it's the most valuable outreach anybody in the movement can do is you reaching out to people who know you.
And I know sometimes we feel a little uncomfortable asking people to do things, at least I do. Just think about your sister or your brother or your mom or someone you cared about or your best friend. If they texted you tonight and said, "Hey, this thing's really important to me. Can you do this?" What would you do? The answer is, of course, I would do anything. I would do anything for my friends and the people that I love, let alone make a call for an issue that they care about. So I always think about it less of asking somebody to do something, and I actually think about it more as giving them the opportunity to do good in this world. And everyone likes being given the opportunity to do something good and feel good about themselves. There's just a lot of people that don't know about this. So this is your opportunity to really maximize and multiply your impact by just getting one or two or three more people to do these actions. Thank you, Dan. Leah, did you have anything you want to add before we take the slide down and then we can get to questions?
No, I think I'm ready. I've seen there's
Yep.
a these are so this is an active group. I'm ready to take their questions.
Alex, if you wanna come off mute, if there's any questions you want to ask, and the answer is yes, I did have a 20-minute phone conversation with McConnell today, but other than that, let's just get through as many questions as we can before we hit the time at 8:30.
Yeah, so there's one in particular that there's been a couple of folks asked this question. For folks that are living in states where their senator has already made a public statement or they're already a strong advocate, what can they be doing?
Yep, thanking them, thanking them, thanking them, thanking them, thanking them. This fight, I hope what you got from my little corner of this, which was there's a long fight ahead of us. And someone being opposed to this or being strongly opposed to that in July doesn't necessarily going to mean that they're going to be in the same position in November or December if a vote comes up. There's also one of the things that we're hearing, and this is maybe getting a little bit too in the weeds, is, and I'm very happy about this because it demonstrates that the MPPC is getting their asses handed to them by us because they're already trying to seek a compromise. They're already trying to, if you see their quotes, they are actually admitting some defeat, that they are concerned now, which just tickles my heart that that's the case. That they're having meetings right now with their four people that care about this and saying, what are we going to do? The animal advocates are winning. But we need to make sure that the people that are with us now stay with us through this entire journey. And the way that that's going to happen is you all contacting them and saying thank you. So it is just as important to get someone to oppose it as keeping them opposed. We need to keep our allies and we need to empower them when it comes to this fight.
There's another trend in sort of like comments and questions related to, my family members are either heavy meat eaters or they don't necessarily agree with my views regarding animals and their role in society. How do I engage them? How do I talk to them about this issue?
Dan or Leah, I turn it over to you two.
I would suggest some of the stuff we talked about in this call, like what does this mean for small farmers, right? Farmers who are trying to do things the right way, right? What does this mean for states' rights, right? What does this mean for other issues that maybe they do care more about that they wouldn't want the federal government coming in and trying to overturn? I think on this particular issue with the Save Our Bacon language, I think there's a lot of room to try to find common ground, even with people who, for whatever reason, that common ground isn't there on animal welfare.
Leah, I don't think there's anyone in the movement that's actually better at finding unlikely allies than you. And if you want, like, I would love you to tell folks about what you just did a couple months ago when it comes to the joke that we were all telling when it comes to bringing people to DC.
Yeah, I brought up a delegation of pig farmers and faith leaders up to DC to meet with Senator Warnock and Senator Ossoff, who are the Georgia senators. And I know and the joke was like a vegan, a pig farmer, and a priest walk in the room, and that's what we did. We walked into the senator's room, and I think that we often focus too much on our differences and not on our similarities enough. And my suggestion I do a lot of work trying to reach out to people you think you're not going to have anything in common with. And I have a friend, a very good friend named Craig Watts, who was a factory farmer for chickens for 22 years, and he is one of my good friends. And what always surprises me is how much we have in common with people we don't think we are going to. My recommendation when you're trying to talk to people who you think, no way, they don't care, start with curiosity. Use a Socratic method, which is like open questions, like, well, what do you think about this? And how do you think about that? And you just take it from there until you find that glow, that spark in them that you see they actually care about this. And then you dig deeper there. You mine for gold. You mine until you find the way to connect what they care about to what we care about here. And I promise you there's always a way. It's just you have to be interested in that game and interested in that connection, that human connection, rather than I want you to just do what I want you to do. You have to be interested in the relationship and be curious and find that connection, that connective tissue between what they care about and what you need them to do or want them to do for farmed animals. There may be some compromising, there may be discomfort, but I think that's where the gold happens. That's where the progress happens.
I remember when I first started working in this movement, I was at the Humane Society of the United States and I was working on bills to ban gestation crates on the state level. Many of the laws they are now seeking to overturn with the Save Our Bacon Act. And I remember there was this undercover investigation that was done into a gestation crate facility. And I really cared about this issue and it was new for me and my family was learning this side of me that they didn't know about because, it took going to law school to learn about this. My brother-in-law is a hunter. He is a camo wearing redneck, and I love him to death. And I remember I felt really, should I send this investigation to him so he knows what I'm working on and see how he feels about this? And I sent it to him. I have never received a text back that was more anti-gestation crate than my hunting, camo wearing, God or a brother-in-law who I would have just assumed he wouldn't care at all. And I couldn't have been wronger. And Leah, so the point that you made just don't make assumptions that people on this particular issue aren't going to care because there's a lot of reasons for someone to care. Next question.
So there's a couple folks that have been asking about the AVMA,
Ugh.
and their stance on the Save Our Bacon Act and how folks could potentially influence that work.
Yeah. Well, the AVMA, a group of professionals that have taken an oath to protect and heal animals, siding with the pork producers. I don't think it's too much of a surprise. When you look at the AVMA, when you look at the veterinarians that go to school to make a living off of large animals, the only place for them to practice is on factory farms. It's actually the factory farming industry that sponsors and pays for most of these veterinary schools that they go through. There's an indoctrination that they go through. Make no bones about it, the AVMA is not a friend to animals. That they are, in fact, one of the facts that I always talk about is the veal industry. I mean, think about that. The veal industry came out against veal crates before the AVMA came out against veal crates. That should tell you everything you need to know about the AVMA. So there's a great group called Animal Welfare Institute. They are taking on, that's a great example of how every group in this movement is fighting really hard and doing different work and really making an impact. AWI is doing a lot of great work to influence and to put pressure on them. So check out their website and call them. I mean, they have a phone number. Google it. AVMA. Give them a call. Ask them. But the most important thing to do right now is for you to do the things that we talked about. Email your senator. The Senate is the priority now. And unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do about the AVMA and their horrible track record when it comes to supporting animal cruelty.
Question from Mark and Alice regarding better animal products to buy from. Are there companies that are opposed to the Save Our Bacon Act or are actively championing Prop 12 compliant products?
There are. It's, as Leah said, she brought hog farmers from Georgia, small family farmers. There's also massive companies that are opposed to this as well. And for reasons that are because they've already complied. They've moved away. It's what Leah was talking about with the marketplace. And so, I don't necessarily, as someone who eats plant-based, I'm not necessarily a big fan of like pushing people to higher welfare products. But, at the end of the day, if you're going to consume animal products, you should come from higher welfare. And unfortunately, the vast majority of pork that's coming from the pork industry come from gestation crates. We're at about 30% in the United States. And so we still have a long way to go. And that's why this fight is so unbelievably important, is because if we're able to keep these laws in place, we're going to start seeing over the next 5 years a tipping point where gestation crates are going to be relegated to the history books. If they win, it's going to set us back a decade. And so, at the end of the day, I know I'm kind of dancing around this question a little bit, but there are large companies that are opposed to this. There are a lot of small family farmers that are opposed to this. It really is only Smithfield and the National Pork Producers Council that are pushing this the most. I don't know if Leah or Dan, you had anything that you wanted to add.
Nope.
Somebody asked regarding mink farming and if the Save Our Bacon Act has any impacts on that.
So there's some language in the Farm Bill that would be harmful to other areas of animal advocacy. In particular, the Save Our Bacon Act is primarily focused on animal agriculture and that of Prop 12 and Question 3. So it's the laws that ban the extreme confinement of farm animals and the sales bans in them. But this is the part that I think is really important for every animal advocate to think about. And that, frankly, this is something everyone needs to think about. It starts today with gestation crates. And what is stopping them from in the 11th hour to adding puppy mills and all of these other areas that we have won on the animal side? What happens after we set the precedent that a major industry can just go to Congress anytime a state passes a law that they don't like, whether it's for fur animals or for horses or for cats or dogs, and just say, you know what? I'm going to go to Congress and I'm going to stick some language in there and I'm going to preempt it. This isn't just about farm animals. This is about the dangerous, dangerous precedent that would be sent, that our issue could just be nullified at any time by Congress, anytime they wanted to act. So I know that there's some other provisions in the Farm Bill that are dangerous. As someone who works on farm animal issues, this is the one that's the most important for us to work on. However, there are really great groups out there that are doing stuff to fight against the other provisions that deal with, I think, horses, fur farms, and those types of things. I would recommend that you work with them, you take action as well. Just make it very clear that you're an animal advocate and that you're opposed to what's happening in the Farm Bill for animals.
See here. Someone asked us earlier on, is there a list of states that would be impacted by the Save Our Bacon Act? And I think this was a fairly straightforward one.
Leah, Dan?
Are there a list of states that are impacted by the Save Our Bacon Act? Is that the question?
It is.
All of them. Every single one. That's easy. I'll take it. I'll take that one. All of them. They will all be impacted. It's a federal preemption law, which means that it overrides any state laws. That's it. It's pretty weird. It's a pretty weird Republican push. Need I say more? It's strange. It's out of step, which tells you there's deep corruption happening here. It is not in line with that party's norm. And that's because Smithfield, which is owned by a Chinese company called WH Group, is pulling the strings in our government and lining the pockets of our politicians.
That's exactly right. It's all 50 states. Dan, I think you put it the best. It's just, this takes away not only the laws that we have passed and the hard-earned victories of our movement the last decade, it prevents us from doing anything in the future. Yep. All 50 states.
Not necessarily a question per se, but I'll phrase it as a question. Some folks have been talking about the leafleting and also potentially like going to friendly businesses and asking to put them up at the counter. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to your coffee shops, you can go to your bakers, you can go to restaurants, wherever there's usually there's a cork board like near the bathrooms or somewhere, announcements, community stuff. Just ask. I mean, the worst you're going to get is a no. And, these are pretty tame photos. I don't know if you can see them. There they are. They're pretty tame, but you could always, if they're like, no, that's too much, then just do that. Just hold it like that. I think you have a right. It is your right in public spaces to leaflet, just so you know that. And I put a link into my a little demo on how you leaflet, but you can also hand it out at your church. Ask, like, and what might happen as well, maybe that owner or the church leader will be interested, and maybe then they'll host an event and you'll get people who care and they're rallying together. There's like endless opportunities, not just to fight for animals, but to start to build community around fighting for animals and ending factory farming.
That's exactly right. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I was just saying here. I think you mentioned this earlier, but this is a historic battle that we're in. Like it is the most important fight, as you said, Matt, in the history of our movement, and I think it'll go down in history as a turning point in this movement. Like, I really believe that there will come a time where we'll look back at this period of history as the kind of factory farming period, right? And we will have successfully moved past that. And I think this fight over the farm bill that we're engaged with right now is going to be seen as sort of one of the moments where the tide turned. And I'm not naive. That doesn't mean that factory farming is going to go away tomorrow or in our lifetime or my daughter's. I don't know. We'll find out, right? But things crest and they peak and then things start to turn, right? And we could very well be in one of those kind of cresting moments right now. And I always think about, like, how do I want to be able to tell my own story about how I showed up in that historic moment that I had the opportunity to live through? What did I do? Did I do enough? And did I do enough that I can be proud of, right? And so I just encourage everybody to ask themselves that question. If this really is a history-altering moment that we're on, do we feel like we left it all on the field, right? Because that's what we're going to do. Everybody at our organizations and our volunteers and our staff are going to leave it all on the field to do everything that we can to win this fight. I'm cautiously optimistic that we will win, and we just ask that you all join us in that, right? So if you've called already, call again, call a third time, right? If you've already posted, post again. Follow all Leah's tips about how to, kind of elevate things on social media, but just, do everything that you can, because this is a moment that will go down in history, and we'll all go down in history with it if we play our cards right.
We're at time, and I was going to ask for final thoughts, and Dan, I think you gave your final thoughts, and I couldn't agree more with you. Leah, I'm going to turn it over to you if you have any words of wisdom or thoughts you wanted to share before we depart.
I think my message to everyone is this is one of the most unique moments in history for fighting for animals. We have not had a better chance to get federal law than the moment we're in right now. We have never had a chance like this. And as Dan is saying, like, we need to leave it all on the field. You don't want to wake up the day after the vote and say, I wish I would have done one more leafleting event. I wish I would have posted. I wish I would have called my senator. You don't want to have that regret. We know what that regret feels like. Don't have that regret. This is the moment we have been waiting for to actually push ahead and gain power for farmed animals, not just for this moment, but for all future moments to build towards ending factory farming.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone on this call can see why Dan and Leah, you are two unbelievable leaders in our movement. Alex, I want to thank you for all the work you've done to organize this, doing the slides, doing the comments, all the back end work, which is important. And thank everyone for taking the time to fight on this and to work. We have a long road ahead of us, but we're going to do great work. And I think for those of you that have seen me take a drink out of this coffee mug, I recently pulled this out. This is my boy, Dew. He passed away a couple of years ago, and obviously, like many of you, you've lost members of your family that leave holes in your hearts. And I just think about, the thing about Dew and how special he was to me, and these are all the names that I gave him. He's just this wonderful boy. He is no different than all these mother pigs. He just happened to be born a dog and live in my life and get a name like Dew. There are literally millions of these animals that are requiring your action and your fight. And I just think to myself every morning that I wake up, what would I do to get him out of a gestation crate? There's nothing I shouldn't be doing to also do that for pigs. And so I ask all of you to just think about that animal in your life, whether it's the animal that's currently with you right now in your lap or an animal that's passed away. Who is your Dew? And who are you going to dedicate your advocacy against the Save Our Bacon Act for over the course of the next couple months? And just fight like hell, because we need to win this battle for them. So thank you everyone for taking the time to join us tonight. Thank you for everyone who's taken action and will be taking action in the future. We are going to win this. We are going to win this, but it's going to take a fight. Thank you, everyone. It's an honor to fight by your side, and we will talk soon.